Hey everyone,
Welcome,
go for it, Zero.
welcome to Zero Authority. We are a community of believers or people who believe in building open source and decentralized systems built on stacks, built on Bitcoin. Today we have Drew Falkman, and he's going to tell us more about DAOs today. So we have an action-packed lineup here. We're going to talk about the DAO working group, what he was doing with stacks. We're going to talk about some of the updates in the community. We're also going to touch on different DAOs that are creating new operational models built on stacks and using some proof of transfer algorithms here. And Kurt, Drew, how are you guys today? Happy Friday.
Happy Friday.
Hey, happy Friday. Thanks for having me. It's really exciting. I've been working in DAOs now for 2017. I started in them. It's kind of a funny story. I was into blockchain and I was working on a different chain. It was called OST, Simple Token, and they provided like an API so you could easily generate tokens and do all this stuff. It was a cool little project. So I was doing a hackathon for that, and I was going to I'd had this startup about connecting wineries to consumers in this sort of direct shipping model. They opened it up, and it's a long story, but there's all these middlemen, and there shouldn't be, is the short story of it. So it had a startup, didn't work. Winemakers were not ready for it. But when I started playing around with this, I was like, oh, I'll build something sort of decentralized that people can use. And then I discovered DAOs as I was doing that. And I was like, wait a second, if the wineries could create their own DAO that they could then all vote on, and then they can contribute, like, what should we build next? How should we do this? How should we get rid of the middlemen together by sort of uniting forces? I was like, wow, that would be amazing. And then the wheels started turning of like all the amazing things that could happen with DAOs and stuff that we're starting to see now, take place. And it's just real. It's really exciting that this decentralized technology can actually bring people together to do stuff. I think that's fascinating. I can go on if you want.
No, actually, in 2016 and 17, I got really into Bitcoin and really into Ethereum, and like at the time and Stacks was I've stumbled upon Stacks, right? Stacks, Ethereum were probably a handful at the time that actually had websites that actually like produced blogs and some content around like DAOs and, well, not around DAOs, but like just the organization and how the working model works. So I would go on ethereum.org and look at what is a DAO. At the time, it was just like basic language around what is a decentralized organization. So like just kind of fast forward into 2022 here. Now that we have your DAO working group, we have Orlando building the Stackers DAO. We have all of these NFT communities. Last night we were talking to Josh and Hadan, and I can't remember his. Kurt, do you remember his name?
It was Josh and Hadan.
Yeah. And there was one more.
Oh, the Oscar, maybe?
Yeah, Oscar. I've never met Oscar before, and so they're also decentralizing as well, right? So we'll have the protocol DAOs, the NFT DAOs are going to be interesting, and then you have just the kind of overarching DAOs and the frameworks for how to do that. So could you tell us more about how the working group came to be? You're an entrepreneur in residence. A lot of people know you in the Stacks ecosystem. Just tell us how that came to be, and that was one way I got introduced to you, and seeing some of the names on there now, I look back and think that was a special couple of months there working and planning together.
Yeah. So, I started last year, about a year ago, working on this DAO OS project, which the idea was to sort of build this DAO software. And we ended up pivoting a little bit and sort of building Miami Voice, what became Miami Voice for the Miami Hackathon, which is like it's a DAO voting tool essentially for people who hold Miami coin to sort of help decide how they should spend the wallet. And in the process of that, I got to know all these great people in the Stacks community. But what I was seeing was that there's a lot of people developing different tools for community. I mean, I would say DAOs, but when I say that, like there's like everything from sort of bringing the community together and helping discuss all the way through the sort of voting and governance and all that stuff. I think when people talk about DAOs, a lot of times they get sort of stuck on voting and governance and sort of the boring part of DAOs, but also the nut and bolts part of DAOs that like make them function. But there's a lot that happens before and after and all around that. So, as I was doing this, working on this, I sort of came to some ideas, and that's what is becoming Friends. But in doing that in the residence program, and one of the reasons why I wanted to do this residence program versus like just start a company or start a group was I wanted to have some opportunity to investigate and get to know some different communities and really understand what the use cases were. And so part of that for me, I thought would be a good idea is let's bring people in that are working on DAO tooling or thinking about DAO tooling and figure out what exactly everyone wants to do and what the problem space of that all is and what needs to be solved. And ideally the hopeful end of this is can we find some core set of things that we can all open source and contribute to as we build each of our own things, so that we're not all just building the same thing in slightly different ways everywhere.
Yeah, I think what may
So
help
it was
is like
great. Go ahead.
categorizing like DAOs. Like there's the voting DAOs, there's some other DAOs, but if you can kind of walk us through the categories and then maybe even the levels, like maybe someone doesn't need like an advanced level, they just need a basic one. Like, because what I'm also experiencing is like some DAOs are just LLCs. Like, so how do we categorize them or explain what people should choose when they're looking at the different DAOs?
Yeah. I mean, when I think of DAOs, I think of ideally the sort of ideal DAO, like the prototypical DAO, as it were, the archetypal DAO, is a group that has no leader, but everyone gets the vision and everyone's on board towards driving towards this like core vision, whatever it is. And it can be a myriad of different things. That's the beauty of DAOs. But then everyone gets to come up with ideas on how they should drive that forward and ultimately vote to make that happen. So there's a consensus building in there. And the other ad in when I'm looking at sort of the archetypal piece is not everyone necessarily, people participate at different levels, but there are at least like a core group of people that are devoted to contributing time and energy and resources to that DAO to advance its initiatives. Because that's how you get DAOs to be autonomous. That's the challenge of a DAO, is getting them autonomous. So that being the archetype, moving towards that, there's like all kinds of different levels, right? There are DAOs that are super centralized, but there's a core group of people that are driving it and possibly generating revenue through NFTs or whatever it is. But they do open things up to vote in the community, and they do want input in the community, and they're trying to activate the community, and they're sort of progressively working towards making it autonomous. And then there's other things that are, further along the road. There are some that are very, like Cyvita is a good example of a DAO that it's like super unstructured. It really is decentralized. But I think there's some struggles within that organization in terms of, really having a unification and getting people together and having it be autonomous and being able to raise the funds when necessary and keeping people activated. There's a lot of challenges to running DAOs, but and where they are is kind of all over the place. And so, but that's what's cool about it. We're so early in this game that we get to sort of decide that, and the tooling and also just general sort of attitudes towards how you approach your communities. um, as we learn what works and what doesn't, I think things are going to change a lot and really advance this
Are there
space.
kits like how like software developer kit? Is there like a DAO kit or
No, that's the thing. I mean, there are certain things on Ethereum.
yeah?
There's like Snapshot and Juicebox. um, I forget what it's called on Solana. Realms, I think it's called. And these are basically like treasury tools that have voting mechanisms, and they can kind of help. But a lot of it is getting a group activated is that's tough. That takes human resources, not just tooling. But there's a cool thing that I did see that's on Stacks now called DWorks.
Yeah.
A guy named Lannis is doing it. It's like a Trello for blockchain, but you can put bounties on the tickets. So as they move across the board, when they get to the done, cha-ching, it gets released to your wallet, which that's cool. I like that. That's so stuff like that. I think is going to be really helpful in the space.
I'm curious how they define done. The whole agile methodology where
Yeah.
there's like a product owner that defines done. Like, and the developers are like, no, this is done. This is what you said. So I'm curious who's dragging that to to
And
yeah, I remember
we had
talking about done. Is it
Yeah.
done? No, but it's just done.
we had a conversation with Lonis. He's in Sweden, by the way, and so we were just kind of talking about the product and how they built it, and that was one of the things that came up. Like, because it's cool too, because you can log in with your different wallets. So they have Hero, they have MetaMask, and I think Solana.
Yeah.
So I think that's interesting too, because as we go forward, Web3 tools, they're going to say, well, I'm going to integrate all of the wallets. It's not just going to be built for Stacks or Ethereum or Solana. And I think that framework is starting to come along too, built on JavaScript with the libraries. I wanted to go back to the DAO working group. What were some of the things what were some of the themes coming into that? Because I know I was there because I was just thinking about the beginning of Zero Authority DAO. We are a content DAO, but we are also building this creator hub, creator marketplace, and it could be similar to like a Web3 Fiverr, but it's going to be built on Stacks. We're in the early innings of building this out. But the DAO too, we want to decentralize over time. Savita, they have this really engaged community, less structure. Then you see some of the then you see like Alex Go and Arcadico that have a lot more structure. They have on-chain governance. So I do believe that there is a wide spectrum of DAO.
Totally, that's totally right. And I think that's what, when I got everyone together to talk about it, I thought it was going to be fairly simple. Like, we're doing this, we're doing this, we're doing this. Okay, here's the overlap. What's that look like? And then what we found out was there's all these different use cases and all these different ideas and all these different ways that people are using DAOs. And the other thing is that, not a lot of people are there yet. The groups aren't mature enough. Like you talked about, sort of that move towards decentralization and towards handing everything over to the community. It takes, in order for that to happen for a group, there has to be that clear vision and there has to be that. And so it takes a while to do that. So, that was what was interesting to me, is bringing together all these different people, and really seeing like who are the people that are working in the space and what are the different interests. And it was really interesting to do some of the exercises we did. And there was a Figma board that we put together that we can share out, but it was just really interesting to see, like, sort of looking into the different problem areas and how they were perceived. And what the different users are in terms of like creating a DAO and being a member of a DAO and what they're going to want based on the different types of DAO. Because you have in an NFT DAO, for example, their needs and interests are very different from like a co-working DAO, right? Or an investment group DAO, right? They all kind of have very particular needs, right? An investment DAO, they're going to be very much into what the next investments are, which is going to be very tied to the treasury, right? So, how do they make all those connections? Whereas a co-working DAO, there's not as much governance. It's just a matter of like membership, really, and then whatever else they want to decide. Sorry, there's the guy's blowing leaf right outside my window.
Just to dive into it, what I will say is when I joined that working group, and it was open, it's not a closed thing. I thought it was going to be pretty straightforward coming into it. I was thinking, okay, well, you'll just want some onboarding, some offboarding. When people come into your DAO, how do you do on-chain voting and reach consensus? Is there can you, like, if you created like a slider for like how to ratify a proposal, could you come in and then kind of create a new instance for your DAO and then kind of have that operating model? And then upon hearing, well, there are different types of missions that each person or group or entity has. And so the way you do certain types of voting are a little bit different. So that kind of that really started to make me think too, because we have a small group here and we're building, and I want us to be leaderless as well. And right now the current model is there's a person or a group of people orchestrating the work. So I've been thinking, well, to move away from that, you'd have to have a strong written vision and or mission, and you'd have to have like some priorities or goals that everyone votes upon and then ratifies. And then how do you organize around these goals or these priorities in a decentralized way and then just go forward? And so it has to be built on smart contracts to do these things, because you always have the human element. So are there some components that you've been recalibrating since you've had a chance to kind of like digest all of the results and informations from those working groups?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I don't know if you've seen what Marvin did with the Executor DAO. I think
We
it's
talked
called
about that
Executor
last
DAO.
night.
Yeah, they, he has a series of smart contracts, and it's sort of a modular system where you can, plug in and unplug different voting kind of tools. I think that kind of a model is very interesting. Because in the end, I think in most instances, you do still need some kind of a multi-sig voting contract, especially when you get involved with treasuries and any sort of coin management, right? If you're releasing, if you have to vote to release, to generate new coins or to burn coins or whatever, you have to have that stuff tied into the blockchain. But I think for me, I think that stuff's all going to come into place and it's being worked on. Stacker DAO has some stuff going on. Some other people do that are still in stealth mode that I know of. So I feel like by this summer, there's going to be some pretty comprehensive tooling for the voting stuff. I still think the challenges personally are going to happen before you get to voting. How do you float up proposals? How do you get engagement? How do you get communities that are involved and aligned? And I think there's going to be a lot of challenges there.
I've got a couple of questions about voting. So have you seen, like, there's the whole 51%, then there's like Congress, which is what, 2/3? Or is it based on the coins that are in circulation? Like, what are the different models of voting for a DAO?
There's a few different models. a lot of the tools in the Ethereum world, they kind of provide you, when you set up your DAO, you can set up how you configure all of that. What do you consider a majority? Do you have to have 2/3? And usually that's like a slider, so it can be 50.1% up to 66% or whatever. But the thing is like, is that of voters? And then how many people in the DAO actively vote? It's just, these DAOs are also like, citizens of a country. Like, it's not like everyone participates in all of the elections. People aren't, and some of them, the smaller things, people don't care about. So you might get 10 or 20%. So that's another thing you have to decide, is what is a minimum threshold of turnout to have a valid vote. If 50% of 10% people show up to vote,
Exactly.
is that a majority? I don't know. That's 5% of your group is making decisions. So it's interesting. There's some ways, and then you have the weight of governance tokens, and does that carry weight? In other words, can you pay for more voting power? And there are debates on whether that's good or bad. And then should you get just one vote, or should you be able to weigh your votes? I've seen some cool things with what's called quadratic voting, where you can vote more, you can vote higher, so you can have multiple votes, but you only have a finite number of votes. So let's say there's 5 proposals up and you have 100 votes, and then it gets progressively more expensive to use more votes. So if you vote 1 vote for something, it only costs you 1 of your 100 votes. But if you want to vote 2, so you want to up your sort of power, that then might cost you 5. And then if you want to vote 3, that costs you 20. So the more you vote, so you can add more votes, but it costs you more. So if you want to just spread your vote around, you can, but you can weigh it, but then it costs you something to do that. That way you can't just like dump onto things and to vote them up and be 100 times someone else, but it does give you some weight if you believe strongly in something. So that's a cool methodology. It sounds complicated. The UIs for it make it a lot less complicated when you sort of see how it works. But there's a lot of things to decide just in voting.
That reminds me too, because I know, Drew, we talked about that quadratic voting and Gitcoin many months ago. So when we were talking to Lonis, he said that there's going to be an integration from Dwork into Coordinate. And so Coordinate was meant to solve the problem with the DAO payrolls and how do you reward contributions. And so like you can set up an entity and then everyone gets 100 gives to give out. And so it's still, there still is a problem though, because if you give out for the contributions because someone contributed to the DAO, it's still you would have to validate that. So with Dwork, you could see it on like the Trello like board that we gave out this give. I know this person did that stuff, but how do you know that person did? So it kind of bridges that gap too. And then you kind of could start thinking, okay, well, that's just the payroll side of a DAO, and those give tokens only live within that system. And so if you have this token, or you're using stacks and integrating like a Coordinate kind of tool with Dwork, then you could say, okay, these people rewarded these contributions, so we know on Dwork we can validate that and pay them in stacks now too. So I think as these tools become more composable, and you mentioned Executor DAO, and Alex Go is using that as a framework. And one of the things I said is I would love to see different DAOs or different groups, and even if we could do this at some point, but contribute to that framework where people can take these modular code bases and throw them into their stack, and then be ready to plug and play instantly.
Yeah, totally. I think that, what happened in the beginning is you had these colony type things, and whatever that Moloch DAO one and DAO House and these sort of all-in-one solutions that were like be-all, end-all, sort of end-to-end things for DAOs allegedly. And I think that's going to get replaced with exactly this kind of thing where you have more of a Lego, because there are so many different use cases, and you can't. There are like, look, something like DWork is great for a Civita because their whole thing is about building the new metaverse, and so the decentralized metaverse on Bitcoin, and so you have people working on stuff all the time. Whereas in other groups, it's not as much. There aren't really like workflows. It's just a matter of contribution and NFT and just being social, adding to the community. How do you measure someone who is like just hangs out in the Discord and shares things on Twitter, and how do you measure that value? But that person's like a social key. There's like, the way I think of it is there's like three aspects to every community. There's the whatever the principle is, the founding principle, the core principle, right? In NFT, that might be the art. In some DAOs, it's the workspace, or in your case, like the freelance type of work. Then you have the social aspect, right? And so there's some of them are very heavy in that, where you have actual physical meetups, or either way there's like conversations happening in Discord. And then the other piece is what is the other piece? Oh, utility. What's the sort of utility of whatever it is you're building? How do you actually use things, whatever, like actually going to the co-working space? Or if it's an NFT project, like what's the use case for that NFT? And I think every community has like balances of those. And so you have to measure every place that people are contributing to sort of know. I don't know, it's tough measuring like reputation and contribution and rewards. I think that's a huge piece of DAOs, and it's really hard to measure. The Stacks Advocates is like a group that's set up. They basically stacked a bunch of stacks, like a pile of them. I don't know how many. And whenever the stacking payment comes out, they disperse it among everyone that's in the advocates. So the whole purpose is to, grow stacks. That's the purpose. But then how you determine everyone participates is they're using this model called SourceCred, which is like an open source tool. And you can, whenever you do something, you post in Discord. And when you post that, people can give emoji responses. And based on those, you get points. And then if you do something, you can also broadcast that out. And then people can emoji response to those. And based on those emoji response, you also get points. And then in the end, it just divides them up basically percentage wise by all the points that were earned by everyone in the group. So that's another way to do it. There's a lot of different ways. And I don't know, one of the things that I'm looking at for friends is like, what if you could have a reputation that you owned that sort of has your contributions, it has your skill sets, it has your interactions, whether you vote or not in the DAO, like all this stuff comes. What if you could port that from DAO to DAO as you moved into these different groups? And then you owned it, so you can say, well, this group, I don't want to participate. I'm just kind of lurking, so I'm going to turn mine off so that they can't see it. But in other groups, it can be seen, and the community moderators might reach out to you and say, hey, I saw that you are a dev and you contributed to this. We totally need help. Do you have any time or interest in contributing to what we're working on?
Drew, for people who are not familiar, can you tell us what Friends is, and when is it going to be launched here?
So it's live now. It's very simple. Right now, it's just a connector from the Hero wallet to Discord. That's basically all it does. So, you can verify from within Discord, you pop out, you connect your wallet, and then at that point, your wallet's there. And if you've been whitelisted, then the moderator of the whatever group it is can grab your wallet and add you to the whitelist contract. It'll also check for contracts that you have, like an NFT. So it can look and see you hold X number of NFTs that are part of this Discord. And then we're refining some of those things, like having the ability to define multiple contracts for a single Discord guild, as well as different levels of membership. So it'll auto assign roles then based on how many of these tokens you hold. And we also want to support other tokens like SIP9 other than NFTs, so that you can validate against Miami Coin or New York Coin or whatever. But then moving forward, so that's like the core. But once we have that wallet, now there's a lot of things we can do, because we've linked that person with their Discord. And so it enables us to create reputation reward systems. It enables us to do interactive things within. It enables the ability to do easy airdrops based on participation, based on, if you vote on this thing, then you get an airdrop. So there's all kinds of ways that communities will be able to use that moving forward.
And what happens when like a person has more than one address? Like how would that be handled?
Yeah, so we actually support multiple wallets. So you actually have a bunch of wallets in there.
Okay.
So you can
I've
just
seen the bot. Sounds like, how am I going to do? I'll be one address in this community and then a different address in a different community, and then how will I keep track of which ones?
Yeah, I mean, it can get complicated. As of right now, we hold multiple wallets, and as you move from guild to guild, it will just bring it with. So if they use our bot, then you can be connected into the new system, and you don't have to do anything. In the future, we'll build a UI so that you can jump out and say, I want this wallet for this. Or maybe if you have, like, let's say for Project Indigo, you have NFTs in like 3 different wallets, you could flag, like, check these 3 wallets for Project Indigo, because that's where I'm holding my NFTs. And of course, this would be only you would be able to see this. But you could be able to basically just, edit all those on a per guild basis. But yeah, it gets real complicated real fast. Like everything.
What's the name of the bot? Is it Friends, or what's the Discord bot name?
Yeah, it's called Friends Bot.
And then anyone can enable it right now on their community?
Yeah. If they go to friends.place, there's a form they can fill out, and then they can download it and plug it in, and then it'll add all the commands. There's a couple roles that it'll have, member and verified, based on and those will be customizable as well when we get the UI built. Member if they have the NFT, and then verified if they've added a wallet.
So every community that I've verified my Stacks wallet, is that the app that you guys have made?
There's Byzantium has a bot as well.
Okay.
So depends on the community. We were in CrashPunks, so if you were in CrashPunks, then you did use ours. We've been in, some other ones as well. So.
Oh, cool! Nice landing page.
Thanks. We're originally Layer C, so you may have seen that bot before, but we rebranded.
So how would someone come and sign up if they have a community and they want to?
So there's a download link top, and then there's a little form they fill out. They really only need to put their project name in Discord, just so I can track those. But the other stuff is obviously good for us, so we know what's going on and we can contact you, and then that'll bring you right to a download page, and you can install it in your Discord from there. And then we actually have a Discord, and there's a link at the bottom of our homepage that you can join and ask any questions. And we do. It's very obscure there. We're all going to make it. But I'm hoping to get this Discord to a place where we can start talking about these kind of community things, and be sharing that, and have it be sort of a problem solving area for us all to sort of grow communities together and find, what are the things that we all need and we're all working on.
That's super cool.
Really cool.
And I've created this, have you guys ever heard of the business model canvas?
I was just
Did you ever
looking at
do
let me
that?
go back to it. I'm curious what that's about.
Yeah, so there's Lean Startup has this thing called Business Model Canvas, and it's basically a way of you just sort of have a board on a whiteboard in the old days when we used to get together in the before times. And then you'd throw sticky notes in these different areas and you'd like brainstorm on all stuff like what are our sort of channels for delivery and this and that and the other. And it's a really helpful way of sort of pre-thinking out your business plan. So I was thinking, with communities, so many of us dive into these communities, but we haven't like thought them through. And doing a business plan or a community engagement plan is sometimes cumbersome, and just doing it in silo is no good. But if you can get everyone together, all the sort of founders, and think about these things, like first of all, what is our vision, right? What are we doing with this community? What's the compelling reason? Who are the people that are going to join this community? Why are they going to join? Then looking at those three things I talked about, sort of that core principle, the social aspects and utility, and what are the different things that they're going to do based on our type of community. And then getting into like competitors, possible partners, what do we need? Where do we need to spend money? What kind of contributions do we need? And then what might be risks to being successful? And thinking all this through, I think, can give you kind of a roadmap for what you need to do to grow your community and to engage people, and also how you can ask people to contribute. I think that's one thing that a lot of DAOs do, is they sort of create these DAOs, and people are excited about the vision, but then they don't know how they can contribute. Sometimes it's clear if you know how to program clarity, then obviously there's always a place for you to go. But for other people, it's not as clear. So having those asks and knowing what you need is, all this stuff is good to have thought through as you're kicking off a community.
And I would even argue, even if you're a developer or clarity, if you don't have the vision, the objectives, and that's articulated that we all understand, you can go build a lot of things that don't create value too. So
Totally true.
I like that framework. I think too, we're obviously blockchain is new and Stacks is still maturing, but people are asking the question, and I talk to people that are launching NFT projects all the time, and I know people are asking them, well, what utility are you going to build into this, and what will this be able to do later? It's no longer, oh, that art looks cool, I'm just going to buy it and hodl it or trade it. It's I think people want to know, what utility will this give me, right? And the same things, like, okay, if I join this organization or if I buy this token to get membership, what does that give me? And how does this get more valuable over time?
Totally true. 100%.
And then,
Hey, but by the way, we have a few minutes here left. I never had a chance to. I did reach out to you, Drew, to ask you about Dcards, but the end of the year got really crazy. I've been enamored with that concept about the Dcards.
Yeah, I don't know what we're gonna do with that, honestly. We kind of put it together near the holiday season, and then like just the craziness at the end of the year, and then the Megapont.
What is it first?
Yeah,
thing?
What is it?
Yeah, let me
don't know Dcards. Give them an intro.
So Dcards.art was, the idea was, it's a platform for NFTs that you can gift, essentially. So the tech allows you could log on. We did like a generative snowflake art for the sort of inaugural collection, and so you could go on, and then you could like go through, and there were some random things, and there were some rare traits and things. So you could find a snowflake that you liked, and then you could, at the next page, you could get the address, this like collection address, send it to your friend, or loved one or family or whomever, and when they got it, it would have a link, and that would bring them to a place where it would either walk them through sort of getting the hero wallet if they were like outside of the system, If they were in the system, they could then just essentially click on claim, and part of the minting fee would also pay for that gas for the collection piece. So then it would just transfer the NFT to that person gas free. So they could log on with a totally empty wallet, no stacks, and get this NFT gifted to them. And then each one was sort of one of a kind, and they can keep it. I'd love to do something with this at some point. If there's anyone that's interested, it's just kind of on hold now. We just sort of built it. And what happened was it launched during, we were late in getting it launched. And then the week that it launched, the week before Christmas, was also when Megapont did their whole robot thing. And I don't know if you remember, but the mempools just were off the chain. So basically, like, Stacks was just shut down that week. So there were a lot that didn't get claimed that we had gifted, and there were, it wasn't as viral as we had hoped. But we'll see. I think there's a lot of potential for this tech. I think we're just going to open source it, actually, and just see if anyone wants to take it.
Well, when I was reaching out, because it was still at the beginning of Zero Authority DAO, and because we are educators first and putting together content to creating community engagement and learning, I was thinking, because we created the Bitcoin pizza because we wanted to pay homage to that historical Bitcoin event. And so with this, I was thinking this concept is super cool. And now that we have like the building out of the creator hub, we could like create like different like skill sets that link to the NFT. But then if like people have certain skill sets, like I create NFT art, or I'm really good at blogging and I want to put forward this on the creator platform. And then we create like these generative NFTs to invite other people that want to get educated about these things. And it kind of would be that reference and get other people involved too. So that was the real reason I was really excited about this and just the concept. So I still think this idea is in the future is going to be something that is going to be really creative and engaging.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's fun. And the whole like concept of like the whole way we did we called it the postman, but there was like this sort of mediator that would manage sending that NFT to someone else so that you could mint it, but then, you would just essentially give it to someone who could then claim it and take it. I think there's a lot of potential for that. And I think there's a lot of fun that you could have with it we thought we had a couple different collections we thought of. One would be like a Hongbao, like for Chinese New Year. It's like traditional, you give younger than you give down like an envelope, and it's red and it's decorated with gold stuff, and then there's money in it. But we could send Hongbao with like stacks in it, right? Or Miami coin or New York coin, and you could or like a mix of coins, and just give it to someone and say, hey, come onto the Stacks chain, you should check this out. So I think there was that. And then another one we thought of was having a collection of like pseudo, like what do they call that, like the propaganda kind of posters, but like all sort of trolling like Bitcoin and maximalists. And then we could send it, but then in order to claim it, they'd have to get a Stacks wallet.
Get a what?
They'd have to get a Stacks wallet, right?
Oh, a Stacks wallet. Okay.
Yeah. They'd have to get a coin.
That reminds me. So I was DMing with Bitcoin Zay, right? And I'm still hoping to get him on for one of the live streams because he's the author of Bitcoin in Black America. And so he's building with the foundation. He is the founder of Bitcoin or Miami Bitcoin Academies. And so he put it out on Twitter, and some Bitcoin maxi was saying, hey, what are you doing on Stacks? And he said, he actually said, I'm going to block you. He's like, go ahead and block me. I'm building a Miami Bitcoin Academy, not a Stacks Academy. So even when you build something for Bitcoin, but you build it on Stacks, I mean, you still get some heat and people still have things to say.
I know, I know. I mean, and the reality is like Stacks has the potential to bring millions of people into Bitcoin. And, so it's interesting. It's one of those things like, I mean, to me, the perfect example of how Stacks is super integrated with Bitcoin is that the mayor of Miami, because the whole Miami coin is based on Stacks, and so when you mine Miami coin, you contribute Stacks, and so that wallet that Miami has with like millions of dollars worth of Stacks in it is all in Stacks. So he's going to stack that, and then Miami citizens can get Bitcoin wallets, and they will get dispersed it. So as long as they're not using it, they stack it, and their citizens earn Bitcoin. And having that many people now having Bitcoin wallets, how does that not benefit Bitcoin? I mean, to me, it's just, I think people need to chill out a little bit, like, and see the synergies and see that like this is a really powerful tool, and that bringing this layer to Bitcoin does add value, does add Bitcoin wallets, does make Bitcoin better and bigger and stronger. So
Yeah,
they're getting it. Some of them are
Yeah.
coming over. So
I mean, it's that use Stacks and make your Bitcoin more productive, or use Ethereum. And if you're a Bitcoin maxi, it's like, well, the least of the bad options are for me to use Stacks.
Yeah,
I don't want
that's
to,
one way
but
to look
I have
at it,
to.
yeah. Mhm.
Hey, before we wrap here, Drew, any last words? Where can people find you? Where can they find friends?
Yep. Yeah. I mean, my Twitter's just at Drew Falkman, Falkman. Drew Falkman BTC on Discord. I'm in all the groups. For DAOs, anyone who's interested in building DAOs, in being involved in the working group, there's a DAO channel in the Stacks that I watch and that we all watch, and that's sort of the headquarters for the working group. So I would recommend anyone to jump in there. And then my friends.place, I would say come check it out. That's about it. But
so you said Stacks Discord DAO channel.
yes, the Stacks, the main Stacks Discord.
Yeah.
There's a channel, DAO, or it's either DAO or DAOs. There's only one channel like it, but that's sort of our main channel for discussing it.
Awesome. I'll definitely look at it. I know I'm in that group, but there's just so much happening, different channels. It's like I can't keep up.
Oh yeah, there's a lot. So
yeah. I appreciate your time and your thoughts. Thanks, Drew.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I enjoyed chatting with you guys.
Yeah, thanks so much, Drew. And on Monday for the Twitter space, we're going to have Orlando talking about Stacker DAO. So super stoked to keep the DAO theme going here.
It's awesome. I'll be on listening and lurking.
Awesome.
As always.
Well, you guys have a great weekend. Thanks so much, Drew. Thanks, Kurt.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.